Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again, and today we're starting a brand new video series on this channel called Do You Remember? Essentially, I'm going to be playing a ton of just old games that I used to play as a kid. Obviously, we've done a lot of Twisted Metal content on this channel, which is another series that I played a lot as a kid, but I kind of wanted to branch out a little bit just to try something a little bit different for this series. And if this is something that sounds interesting to you, and if you have any suggestions for future videos for this series, let me know in the comment section below. But that being said, this video is on Revolt. This is a super highly underrated racing game, or arcade racing game. Back, I think it came out in like 1998. I'd have to probably look that up to get the exact date for you guys. But it came out on the Nintendo 64, the PlayStation, and believe it or not, the Dreamcast. And apparently it even came out on Windows as well, so you could play it on PC, which is pretty cool. And I have the PC version here. I'm actually playing it through Steam. It is still available to this day to buy, and it still works. The only downside is the Steam version, for some reason, does not use a controller input. It only works with the keyboard and mouse. So that's what I'm using here. And also doing a little bit of research, there is a dedicated fan base for this game still out there that have actually created a modded version of Revolt, which is free to download, by the way, kind of like using a ROM with an emulator. But it's all just ready to go in one application, and it has controller support. And the best part is it also includes a multiplayer variant, and they still run races to this day, which is pretty dope. Now, I'm not showing that here. This, again, is the PC vanilla version through Steam, but it's really cool that there is a dedicated fan base out there still trying to keep this game alive. So what is Revolt? Essentially, like I stated, it's an arcade racer. Think of Mario Kart, just without the Nintendo properties. And instead of regular kart racers, it's little mercantile vehicles. So kind of like Twisted Metal Small Brawl without the battling concept of Twisted Metal. It's just legitimate racing. And then you get the little power-ups as you're driving around like you do in Mario Kart. You can use them to get people out of your way, put oil slicks behind you, all of the above. And I remember as a kid, the biggest thing about Revolt that was the most fun was the sense of speed actually was pretty decent for being little RC vehicles. I remember it was pretty difficult. It was a challenging game, but that made it more fun and more addicting to come back to. And the biggest thing was the level design. And this kind of relates to Twisted Metal Small Brawl in the sense that I still, to this day, think that game has the best level design in Twisted Metal. Whereas Revolt has some of the best level design that I've seen in any kart racer that I've ever played. And yes, that is including Mario Kart. But this game has a special place in my heart. It's always been super fun to play. I've always loved the feel of the cars. They feel a little bit, some of them are a little bit too tight in their handling and some are a little bit too loose. It really depends on the vehicle you choose. And there is a ton of vehicles to unlock in this game, which is pretty amazing. Some of them are based off real vehicles, and then most of them are made up or just randomized, you know, little RC cars. And each of them have their own stats, which do really change up the flow of gameplay. Some of them will say that they have really good speed, but really poor cornering / handling. And it really shows. And then there's some that have really good handling, but the acceleration isn't that strong. And, you know, all the above when it comes to the stats. So it can really change up the flow of gameplay depending on which car you choose. And I always thought that was really interesting. Because a lot of racers back in the day, yes, the cars had different stats, but it really was minute the differences between the different vehicles. And then this game, it is very drastic, changing up the car to try them on different types of maps and whatnot. But coming back to the level design, I think the coolest thing about Revolt is that the levels all feel like you're legitimately a little RC car going through a gigantic, life-size, big version of an area. Kind of like how you felt as like a 5-year-old kid walking around the school or the hospital or the mall or whatever. And you go to it as an adult, and it just looks completely different. It doesn't feel as magical. It doesn't feel as large and just interesting and mysterious. Where they really got that pattern down with the level design in Revolt, where it just makes you feel like you're 5 years old again, going through these areas, and everything feels mystical and unique and crazy. I mean, take the museum, for instance. This level is awesome. So you're literally just going through a museum, looks like a science museum of some sort. There's a walkway that goes to like a space exhibit, so you see all the stars around you. You can go up the ramps, which essentially would have been like the handicapped area to go up the stairs. There's all these leading hallways that you can see the different exhibits on both sides. There's a security area. There's a lot of detail put into every level in this game. And to play this on a PlayStation 1 was pretty remarkable back in the day. Now, the PC version does have upgraded graphics from the PS1 version, but it still holds up. From some of the gameplay I've looked up on YouTube of the PS1 version, it still looks really good. But the PC version, of course, just is above and beyond in terms of the texture quality and the frame rate and all that stuff for sure. And I mean, other than the museum, there are so many other levels that just stick into my mind from playing this as a kid, like Toys in the Hood, where it's literally just you're driving through a regular neighborhood, going on our vehicles and stuff like that. There's a supermarket, pretty self-explanatory. You're driving through different aisles at a supermarket, the food aisles and stuff like that, going through the freezer. Very cool. There's also a botanical garden, so you can go through someone's backyard, basically. There's a rooftop level. There's a toy level. There's a ghost town. There's even a Titanic, basically, called Toytanic, which is hilarious. So, yeah, there's a ton of maps in this game, and I think by far the level design is where it pretty much hits every mark that I would be looking for in an arcade racer. The rest of the game, though, is pretty standard Mario Kart-esque racing, so there's 3 laps or 5 laps or 4 laps, whatever the level decides on if you're going through the main campaign or if you're just doing single-player races. And then you have the different power-ups you can pick up throughout the level, and you're all just going one way like a dedicated race. First one in first place wins. So the different power-ups include the Secret Star, which is literally the exact same thing as the star from Mario Kart, where you grab it, you're basically invincible for a few seconds. You're also a lot faster. Helps you if you're really far behind, which is nice. You can get a bomb, which is literally like, the cool thing about the bomb is it starts going down your antenna as if it's one of those fuse lines that you lit with a match, and it's going down like a TNT bomb. And if it reaches all the way down to the car, you explode, you fall back behind, and yeah, you're kind of shit out of luck. However, I believe, if I remember right, you can pass it on to other people by running into them if you have the bomb. So yes, it starts out as a detriment. It's like, oh crap, I got the dud one, but it can actually lead to something good if you're near other opponents. The water balloon, pretty self-explanatory. You throw a water balloon at somebody, it can cause them to spin out. The firework, which feels just like a homing missile from Twisted Metal, where if somebody's in front of you, it'll automatically lock onto them, follow them, and make sure to hit them to make them spin out. It's just super helpful. There's a shockwave, which is pretty cool. You shoot out in front of you, and it sends cars flying out of the way. Very helpful, and it also looks hilarious. A ball bearing, which I don't really understand this one too much. It doesn't really seem to do much to the enemies. It more often hurts you in the long run, but it's a thing of like a giant marble that comes out of the car, and it just kind of becomes an obstacle you have to go around. And then turbo battery, which just gives you pretty much infinite like turbo / speed for a certain amount of time to catch back up with the rest of the people in the race. And the very last pickup is clone, which is you can put it behind you, just like in Mario Kart, where you get one of those dud boxes. And if somebody were to run into that, they will take the hit, and it's usually, I think it slows them down or does something like that. It's just basically a dud pickup. Like if you go to get it and it's a clone, you will regret it. So yeah, a ton of different pickups in the game, just like Mario Kart. All of them are pretty useful in their own ways, except for 1 or 2 of them are kind of meh. But the rest of them are pretty good. Yes, they could have been a little bit more creative with their power-ups because, again, it's just kind of a blatant ripoff of Mario Kart. But I think in the physics of this game, it really changes up how the power-ups work. So the physics in this game for the cars are actually pretty realistic in terms of how they flip over and they flop around and they go flying, where you don't get that in games like Mario Kart, where they're really arcadey physics. Now, I kind of like that about this game, and I think that adds to the challenge of Revolt that you don't get with other arcade racers. I think another big point of the game is the soundtrack. It just bangs, dude. Like every song in this game, I remember to this day. As soon as I heard it again coming back to it for this video, I was blown away by how I could remember the beats of these songs, and they used to get stuck in my head for weeks at a time. So yeah, the original soundtrack was insanely good. So I don't know, man. I don't think these videos are going to be super long. It depends on what the game has to hold, I suppose, and what my thoughts are on them. But Revolt is what it is. I mean, what you're seeing here is essentially the entire game. It's just a very simple, fun arcade racer with a ton of cool little small details here and there of the RC car aesthetic. I also just love the physics again and the graphics, and everything just feels really good to play. Even the controls still hold up to this day. So if in a way, I wish Revolt would have got some type of a sequel made, whether that was on a next-gen system or it just in general, it deserved better than what it got. So I think it was just ahead of its time. But that being said, hope you guys liked this video. If you played Revolt in the past, or if you've never played it before, Let me know in the comment section below. I'm really curious to hear how many of you have actually heard of this game and how many of you really haven't. And this is the first time maybe you're hearing of it and seeing gameplay of it. And if you are one of the people that's never heard of it, are you going to give it a chance after seeing this video? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. With that, make sure to leave a like, share, support as always, subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of the video. Before we head out, I want to give a huge special thank you to our channel members. These are amazing people who are wanting to support the channel and the content here. And if you want to do the same, you can click the little join button underneath every single new upload. And in becoming a channel member not only supports me and the channel, but also gives you a ton of perks in doing so, including early access to new content and being a part of exclusive polls and information that other people would not be able to access. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you again so much for the love and support, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out.